Hello, friends. So, a number of you have been asking me about the setup that I have here on my bike as far as um, audio, phone, radar detector, how it all works with the headset in my helmet. So, I figured I'd just make a little quick video, show you kind of what I use and how I use it, and just kind of give you a couple things to think about for yourself and your setup. You have the SW Motec tank bag, which goes onto the tank ring that is bike specific. The radar detector over here in the phone, and I'll show you kind of the modifications that I've done to the bike in order to understand it a little better. So first we'll start off with the tank bag because that's kind of the hub that kind of hosts everything. What I have in here is where everything is kind of hosted. Obviously, I have the iPod Classic up on top. This just helps because of gloved hands. I always wear gloves when I ride. So I want to have a way to have music whenever I ride because I really prefer to listen while I do that. Otherwise, it gets boring. But since I ride so much backcountry, I lose a signal off of my phone. So I want to have a way to always get music streaming to my headset. Inside is it's kind of strange to look at everything here, but essentially what you have is this is a battery pack that powers the two components here. Because of the splitter, so the green is the radar detector and the red is the iPod. When you go from 2 down to 1, you lose volume essentially. So what I do is I put that splitter into a battery powered headphone amplifier, and essentially I just crank this thing up all the way, and it obviously it does need to be powered on. And in order to get that to the headset, which is on my helmet here, it's just a regular Cena headset. That is the output of that is gone into this right here, which is essentially it's a Bluetooth transmitter, and this transmitter is what speaks to the helmet. So from this side, it's kind of get an overview. Here is where we're plugging in the iPod, obviously, which goes into the headphone amplifier. But then here's the other side, which is the radar detector. And as you can see, the radar detector does have an audio output for it. So it makes it really convenient to be able to simply plug straight in, and we've got our power right here. And then I can get audio alerts from the radar detector. I'm not so worried about being able to see the radar detector because how strong the signal is depends on how fast it's actually sounding in my helmet. So the faster it is, the closer the threat is, I guess in this case. You'll notice that the phone does not have any audio going into this. That's simply because the phone is strictly used for turn-by-turn navigation, and that turn-by-turn navigation is essentially fed into the helmet just like a phone call. And you can set up the settings like that, and you can look up how to do turn-by-turn navigation and to display it as a phone call. The only cord that really goes to this would be my power cord, which I will show how I do that as well. So this radar detector is the Uniden R3. I used to have the Uniden R1. The only difference in those is that the R3 has a GPS chip in it. And essentially what you would use that for is if you drive by like a grocery store or something with automatic doors, or even somewhere that has a signal that's going to basically set off the radar detector. You can set GPS lockouts so that way you don't get those notifications on the radar detector. So I still own the R1, and my wife uses it, and I now use the R3. This goes in between my car and here on the bike, and I'll show you how it's mounted here. You can see that it's magnetic, and I'll show you the details of that. But essentially, I have a power cord that I've run throughout the bike, and that goes obviously from the battery, and it turns on and off with the key. So when I turn the key on, then I can get power to the radar detector, and I can demonstrate that right now. So if I plug it in, obviously I don't have any power. Once I turn on the key, then I have power to the radar detector. So it works out really, really well in order to utilize this, and I'm not draining my battery. So like I said, this radar detector is on here with the RAM mount, the magnetic plate. It is used a RAM mount ball mount in the mirror receptacle of the left hand handlebar, and then on the right hand handlebar I have my phone mount, which I'll explain that one as well. But really, this is obviously, this part of it is actually magnetic, and the way that this goes on there is there's this just metal plate that is just stuck to the bottom of it. A friend of mine does use a radar detector as well, and he uses Velcro, and he Velcros it to his tank bag. I didn't want to do that just because I go back and forth with the radar detector between my car and the bike, so I wanted something a little bit cleaner and a little bit quicker to go in and out. So that is the reason that I use the magnet instead, and it's super strong. It's not going anywhere. I've been on high speeds with this, and I've never had any problems with this, and it hasn't failed me yet. So very, very good investment with that. And then next I'll show the phone. So the phone is essentially set up the same deal. It's in the mirror receptacle. The one thing about with most motorcycles is the right side is reverse threaded. So I had to get a reverse threaded adapter in order to put the ball mount inside of that, but it worked out just perfect. With this mount for my phone, I'm using the QuadLock. So the back of the phone just simply sets into here, and then it locks into place. The best investment I used to have the RAM mount X grip. This is just so much better because I can literally use one hand to take it on and off. With the X grip, sometimes you do need to use two hands. So this is much cleaner, much better. And next I'll show you how I get power to my phone here as well. So on this side it just kind of worked out the best to actually put a USB hub. I just kind of custom put it in here and just bought a piece of it, or all of the hardwire pieces on Amazon, and did all the installation myself. It's super easy, and I've ridden through rain. This little rain cover has not failed me, so it's been a very good investment. This is this same situation with the radar detector, that it does not come on unless the key is turned. So you might be able to see it. It should light up here blue. Yeah, you can see it just turned blue. So this does not turn on unless the key is on. So another good way to save from battery drainage. This is kind of my infotainment setup that I have. Really, it's just all about getting all of this information into here, because obviously you have to really keep your eyes on the road, or at least I feel you do, and it's difficult to look to see what the notification is, or try to look at the phone and see where I need to go. To be able to get those audibly in my helmet is a much safer way, in my opinion, to go about it. So that's kind of how I have it set up. Music, radar, turn by turn, and phone. That's essentially it. So if you have any other questions, feel free. I'm happy to share and maybe give some tips on your specific situation. But this worked out really well for me, and you just got to kind of figure out what works best for you. Thanks.